everybody. We are back with another Table 13. I am, of course, a wooden leg. Up there is a shady, and over there is a mystery. We are the board gods of Irrational Radio, and tonight we are discussing Feats. We've been working our way through this list for the last couple of episodes, taking breaks to do interviews and talk about some other stuff, but we are near the bottom here. We're in the O's, which from my research is near the bottom of the alphabet, or at least closer to the end than, say, the C's or the D's.
I guess M is like the 13th letter, so
please
Right.
impart us this alphabetical knowledge you
You see, I
discovered.
have studied long, hard to bring you this.
sing the song 3 or 4 times.
Yes. C, D, E, F, G. But we ended last time on Observant. Thought it was pretty cool, but really was, it needed a DM that could really use it with the characters.
That's right, I think.
And now we are on another one of these racial-based feats, which is Orcish Fury. There's the obvious prerequisite of you have to be a half-orc. Though
Can you not be a full orc?
full orc is not technically
It's not included.
Yeah,
on the
it's
thing,
not an
actually.
actual like
That's interesting.
playable race.
Isn't it though?
Well, it is
Isn't it,
though.
though? It is-
Volo's.
Right.
Yeah,
This is
whatever it
Xanathar's
is. But by the
feat.
time, I was gonna
Right.
say when this was published though,
It
I don't
wasn't,
think that was
yeah.
out yet.
So I think that as a DM,
I would
sure,
obviously
yeah.
include that.
Yep. As
Yeah.
You'd have to mess with it some because it specifically references a feat you get or a trait you get as a part
Oh,
of the
that's
half-orc
true. Yeah,
package,
as
so you'd have
the
to do
relentless
some
endurance.
changing.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
if
probably
you
why
Is
they
that-
haven't rolled it
they?
to include.
Yeah.
I mean, relentless endurance, I think, is just half orcs. I don't think full orcs.
I don't
get-
think they get that. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But
I
to
think
read
they get
through
like
it,
a move, the aggressive thing. They can like a
Right.
bonus action to move their speed toward the enemy or
you
something
could
like
probably
that. as
do
full
that instead, and then adapt
Right.
it for orcs as well. You'd think
Yeah.
that an orcish fury would be
An
available
orc,
to
yeah,
any
or
orc,
like unless they want
regardless
a
of.
half orc fury, you're like really pissed off.
Oh,
that you're a
because they
half-orc.
don't have. I get what you're
Right.
saying. That
Yep.
wasn't clicking.
But
So-
anyway,
well,
what it does,
yes, go ahead,
Your
what it
fury
does.
burns tirelessly. You gain the following benefit: increase your strength or constitution by 1 to a maximum of 20. When you hit with an attack using a simple or martial weapon, you can roll one of the weapon's damage dice an additional time and add it as extra damage of the weapon's damage type. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And then immediately after you use your relentless endurance trait, you can use your reaction to make one weapon attack. Um, it's pretty cool. It's
Mhm.
really not that great because isn't relentless endurance once per long rest too?
Yes, I believe
I
so.
Or long
think
or
it's
short?
long rest. It might be long or short though. I'd have to look at that.
So
but
what you're doing is you're basically sacrificing increasing your strength or constitution by 1,
Mhm.
or any other ASI, to basically get 2 abilities that you can use once per short or long rest.
Yeah.
And they don't do that much. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
if you hang on to that for like if you hold on to that until you crit,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
then
man.
stack that up with your
Yep.
the savage, whatever the
doesn't-
other orc thing is.
it doesn't really say when you can when you choose it. I think with
Right,
Smite,
but you add it as
specifies.
extra damage of the weapon's damage type,
Right.
right? So it's
Yep.
saying that your weapon damage basically goes up by 1 dice.
And this is the
in
feat.
my
Right,
the
but-
way I read that anyway.
But
Right.
do you do this thing before? Oh, I mean, do you choose? I guess you would choose this thing as you hit, right? So
Right.
That's
you'd be
to
able to be
me
like,
the
okay,
way
well, I
you
hit.
read that. It's just like technically
Whenever you
smite rules is written, sneak attack
Mhm.
also. They're
Mhm.
increasing the weapon damage of the attack,
Right.
so they should also double when they
Well, they
crit
they
or
absolutely
whatever.
would double. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
didn't know if you had to decide if you were using it before you'd know if you crit or.
No, because it's
That's what I was
when
yeah,
you
no,
hit.
it's
But it
when
looks
you
like-
hit.
you
But so
can.
that's to me, I
Yeah.
think there's maybe some use for that because you're not going to crit much more than that, probably, if
Right.
you're a strength based. But
And if you're wielding a great axe and you get that extra D12, you can, and then you crit, and oh my goodness, yeah, you can start stacking up the dice. It's pretty
yeah,
crazy.
that
It is
is
pretty crazy.
your
There's doesn't
potential
doesn't
goes
Great
huge
Weapon
there.
Master, it lets you like re-roll your low dice too.
Ones
Yes.
or twos,
So
I
coupling it
think.
with that could be pretty good because you, I
Yeah,
think,
and
get
I
to
would assume
re-roll
you
that
probably
as well.
would. Yeah, if that's a
Yeah.
damage dice, I think it just it
No, Great
uh,
Weapon Master is the when you can take -5 to add 10 to the attack's damage, which
you're the fighting style one is what you're
right.
talking about
Yeah.
though.
So
But
it's the
yeah, I think
fighter
that's you
thing.
reroll
Yeah.
ones and twos
Yep.
when
Yep.
you on damage rolls, which I think should
Yep.
apply to those just the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
and then if you like you were saying, it's not really but if you just swapped the orc ability, it's like aggressive or whatever in for relentless endurance
Right.
there. I think that second feature pretty much works just as well.
Yeah.
Um and then they do get to stack in one more attack and like
Yep.
that's probably going to get kind of cheeky, but I mean
Yep.
if you just use that's actually much more useful than their relentless endurance. That
Yeah.
doesn't probably translate evenly, I suppose. That's like every turn. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you
could say once
do
per short or
something.
long rest or something.
I mean, or you could just, well, that might be make it more powerful. You could just give regular orcs just relentless endurance with this feat, but that might be a little bit too powerful.
I would say instead of that, maybe you gave them relentless endurance or something. You know,
right.
like
That was my thought.
Yeah. I see where you're saying
yeah,
though.
using
Without
getting that
mapping
extra
out, that could
yeah.
be pretty strong. But
but
honestly though, with
yeah.
the way people pop up and down in 5e a lot,
right.
Giving somebody one of these that's internal, I think is kind of fun sometimes. It's the only times I've ever had it come into play, it's been really funny. Like it was a level 1 encounter and it totally saved me from killing one of my
funny.
PCs on like an unfortunate roll basically because he was a sorcerer and it was a level 1 combat encounter and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, goblin rolls a crit and suddenly your sorcerer's head's on the
It's
floor.
just like, oh boy. And then he was like, wait a minute, I don't die because I've got the thing. And I was like, oh shit, yes. Okay, cool. I'm as excited as he is, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yay!
Hooray.
That's why they put those in there. So, what do you guys think? I'm going to give it maybe 2.5 corn cobs out of 5. It's pretty good in terms of like kind of niche conditions, but it's definitely not game breaking. And while it may be not worth the sacrificing the 1 ASI to get these things, it does add flavor to like a heavily martial combatant for only the price of 1 more point. And if you're already sitting at like 20 strength or 19 strength, there's really no reason for you not to take this if you're making a level 20 badass fighter and you're a half orc. So 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5.
I would probably sit around the same. I'll go with 2.5 as well because I don't think it's not maybe the strongest and it's like limited, but it builds strong with the builds that are common in like with half orc characters, I think, and yeah, like you're saying, there's some flavor that goes with it as well. I think you get that across.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that's fun.
What do you think, Shady?
I'm giving it 2 corn cobs because I don't like it.
All right.
I don't like that it's basically a thing that you get to use like one time, know, more or less. I feel like a feat should be something that defines your character and you get to, use it more often than that. This just seems like a shitty ribbon.
Yeah.
I can get behind that, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Sense.
All right, so not the best, but a shitty ribbon if you're running out of feats to take that makes sense to your character.
If you short rest regularly,
yeah,
the damage dice thing is at least pretty common. And if relentless endurance is a short rest, then that comes up more as well. But that's not most of my campaigns, at least.
Right.
Like as a player or a DM. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to the fabled Polearm Master. You can keep your enemies at bay with reach weapons. You gain the following benefits. When you take the attack action and attack with only a glaive, halberd, quarterstaff, or spear, you can use the bonus action to make a melee attack with the opposite end of the weapon. This attack uses the same ability modifier as the primary attack. The weapon's damage die for this attack is a d4, and the attack deals bludgeoning damage. While you are wielding a glaive, halberd, pike, quarterstaff, or spear, other creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they enter your reach. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yep.
It's pretty neat.
Very strong.
It's it's kind of the fabled, like they use it with Tunnel Fighter.
Right.
And
That's why.
then you just attack everything that comes near you and everything that leaves you, and you just kind of become this sort of like bastion of attacks.
Right.
It's the only way to break around the action economy as a melee person, because you don't like with Tunnel Fighter and this and Sentinel, you can potentially attack an infinite number of times as people keep running at you, sort of thing. Assuming that you hit every, or and all that jazz, they stop, and then there's just this whole train of stuff. But it is in and of itself, though. Like, it's not, I don't think, like, overtly broken. It's just that synergy with some of the other feats, the way that this piles up with the 2-weapon fighting style and the Great Weapon Master and the and Sentinel and Tunnel Fighter or whatever.
I mean, it's honestly not very good. I love it though. I like the sort of like planting your glaive, and preparing for somebody coming into you. I love that sort of like twist on the mechanics to sort of, show that in the game. I think that the extra attack thing is kind of whatever, it's a neat way to give them a second attack.
Right.
I like it a lot. It gets overpowered when you start coupling it with some other feats. I think like I guess we're not doing Tunnel Fighter because that's UA,
right.
If we
Well, it's
were
a
doing
fighting
Tunnel
style.
Fighter, I'd shit on Tunnel Fighter because it's overpowered.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of that's the trump card in that situation that sort of creates this unfair kind of mess. But I love this feat by itself has really great like functionality, and it kind of shows what it means in mechanics very well.
Right.
Even though it's a stupid combat feat.
Yes. It is one of these like exclusively combat feats. Orcish Fury is pretty much as well, I suppose. That usually I'm not a huge fan of that exclusively. I do like the weapon like focusing feats as a general rule, and I think in particular this one isn't like by itself is not bad. It's just the way that it lays in with the others that turns it into kind of, if you have one of those two-hand fighters at the table, it's very hard to compete without doing some similar variation on that theme. Like, but it's not to say that you can't threaten those characters in a lot of other ways and stuff like that too.
Right.
I like it. I think it's a pretty good feat, and I actually I've got one of that same sorcerer who was almost killed in session 1 is now like also got some levels in fighter, and he has polearm master to use his quarterstaff in melee more often, and like he's actually able to use it to some pretty decent effect. And that D4 puts the reach weapon up into the same damage class as a weapon that doesn't have reach, and that's where it's useful. Is it like that's the trade-off, is you can attack a square away, but you don't go up to the D12, 2D6 reach weapons.
Yeah, but if you got a halberd, you got 1D10 with reach, you'd add
with
that D4. Yeah, exactly.
It's an extra 2 D2s or whatever, it balances your 2 attacks out to D12s.
Yep.
I really like the idea of that though, like a wizard taking. The quarterstaff's in it, and so it gives them a little bit of a way to, when they're out of spell slots or whatever, and they're up in close quarter combat, they have something they can do, and
I
it's kind of neat.
thought
And he
it
can bop people when they run up at him
it
too, which is really
Right.
it
fun
actually
sometimes.
kind
Yeah.
of jives pretty well with the spell Shillelagh because your quarterstaff becomes a D8 and all the
Yeah.
melee attacks you deal with it are magical. So you basically bop them with the heavy end and then bop them with the light end, and they're both magical attacks. So it's
Ah,
yeah.
that actually would mesh yeah, they're like a druid or something,
Yeah,
like
with
a
Polar
caster druid or
Master,
what, that kind of
yeah,
a concept
and a
with Polar
Which
Master.
I
quarterstaff.
would
Yeah.
even, I don't know, with that, I might even up that D4 because it's still technically
Right?
just a
Yeah.
wielded staff.
I thought about that. Technically,
It might be a little game. I don't know if it's
yeah.
game breaking or not, but it's not that much different than a dexterous fighter fighting with two sabers. Those are D6s. The
Right.
difference on that is of average damage is 1 point.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point. Still, it's interesting. I like this just because it it adds flavor to kind of like a um it reminds me of the old martial maneuvers from Hero System. Where you're able to do crazy shit in combat because your character is the type of character that you are, or your training or your background is as such, and you can do things like in combat that break the combat in ways that are interesting or like mechanically visual. I like the visual of like hitting someone with the non-business end of a halberd because you're just like
Yeah.
flipping it around. So I like this too. And you can do some pretty funny stuff with it, like the bugbear with a reach weapon and polearm master. You basically like can stop anyone that you want to. It's just like anyone run past you, you're like, no.
Well, when it's on your turn, you get that reach as a bugbear. So
Oh,
your
okay,
opportunity
all right.
attacks, it actually doesn't. So
All
they've
right.
insulated themselves from
A
that, I
little bit,
think, a
yeah,
little
you're right.
bit.
That's
So
that's one of those things. There.
bugbears, that reach, I think that's actually pretty well built.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
look at it and I thought it was super broken, and I tried to break the hell out of it. And honestly,
Yeah,
I mean, you don't end up with something that you can't get somewhere else,
right.
really.
Yeah.
Which is interesting
Yeah.
to me. So it's funny how some of those work out, I guess. But I suppose we can probably rank now.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5. It's got it's got some flavor. It's got some like kind of some power to it. I guess I'd like to like rate this in two different ways. Like in terms of just like powerful feats, this is like a 3.5 out of 5. You're not gonna take it and you're not gonna like it's not lucky or something where the DM is gonna go, oh god, I forgot you have Polar Master. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
I don't
But
know. They might.
for flavor, it's like a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. I really like the idea of it with a character because it's just a cool feat. Cool feat. I can imagine someone with Polar Master in my head much better than I can imagine someone with medium armor master. So
For sure. I guess I would say that it's probably, I will go with a 3 because it's a solid. It's pretty good. It's just they did not think about how it plays into some of the other stuff.
right,
And how they kind of just
absolutely.
they set this up in the path with another group of these feats that just make a single kind of optimal martial
Right.
character, and that's boring, I guess.
Yeah.
To me, as like a a gamey, I want to have a bunch of features and do a bunch of different stuff and still be able to be viable kind of thing. So but I do think it's actually not like a super broken feat in and of itself again. Yeah. And
Right.
it's fun, like you're saying. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And as far as combats go,
It's well
feats go.
built, I think. It's a very well
Right.
built feat. It's not the most powerful, but it's cool. It jives with some, jives too well with some, but it's still pretty cool. Still cool.
DF.
You want to read the next one there, Mr. E?
I never
Did
got
Shady?
to rank
He didn't
it.
rank it yet.
Oh yeah, no, okay. Yeah, sorry, Shady.
3.5.
You get
I
an
was gonna give
opinion.
it. I was gonna give it 3. But then starting to think about it in the hands of like a wizard or a druid made me so happy. I'm giving it a 4. It's good points is that it's got really nice flavor, like Kyron had said, basically. and that it's sort of like, it's a combat feat, which is stupid,
Right.
but they do it in a way that it's interesting.
Hmm.
So and then it gets extra bonus points for being good for non-martial classes as well. So
Neat.
four corn cobs from Iowa,
For four
from
corn
the Iowa
cobs
team.
from that Iowa team. All right, now that he's given his opinion, I guess you can continue with what we're doing.
I'm just
Sorry,
like
guys.
I've been kind of distracted here because he's saying halberd, and that's not a thing.
That's what I said.
YouTube,
I said
Google.
halberd, and
Oh,
they're making
okay.
fun of
That's
me
why I
in
was so
chat.
confused. I missed that.
Right.
I was like, what?
Yep.
That's not who?
Yeah, he said
Anyway.
halberd.
And
But if
Okay.
you're using a halberd,
Mhm.
Okay. Then I missed a chance to pick on you for
You
saying
did.
a funny
You
man.
did. Yep.
What a
Now
lame one.
now
Anyway,
it's past.
Prodigy's our next feat. It's totally halberd. What the hell? I've been saying that word wrong my whole life. This is another goddamn
Yes.
expeditious retreat. Like I can't have it. Yeah. But right, Prodigy, you have a knack for learning new things. It is prereqs are half elf, half orc, or human. You gain the following benefits. You gain 1 skill proficiency of your choice, 1 tool proficiency of your choice, and 1 fluency or fluent whatever you're and fluency in 1 language of your choice. I guess that's the way it should be worded, huh? Choose 1 skill in which you have proficiency. You gain expertise in that skill, which means your proficiency bonus is doubled for an ability check you make with it. Blah blah blah. And you can't double your expertise with it.
Right.
But oh man, I'm a big fan of this. You can turn any character into like a more functional skill character
Right.
with this. A fighter all of a sudden has a couple things that they can do out of combat. Maybe
Yep.
and then there's one thing that they're actually very good at. Where you're not gonna have that generally.
I love the idea that you can have like a level 6, or when you get the ASI, 4-7. Is it
4-8.
4-8? Okay.
Oh.
So you can have like a level 7 fighter who just doesn't know, like anything about alchemy or something, or stealth, and then they go through a goblin dungeon, they come out and they're just a master at stealth now because they
I like
put
to
the
think that they
prerequisite
found a
in there.
book down there.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I assume it is kind of assumed with all of the
Mhm.
level up systems that it's not like you immediately just suddenly are better,
Right.
and that you've been slowly accruing this skill and experience over time, and with that you've kind of incrementally made your way
Right.
to that. But it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not just like kind of knowledgeable about history.
Right.
I'm like the man on it
And you
now,
go into a
and
goblin cave and
like,
come
yeah,
out a doctor, a master of medicine. Like, no, I can operate on you now. Yeah,
I know
took
so
a
many
goblin
ways.
apart
Let me
with a
tell you.
sword, a bunch. So I can do
It's just
and I
surgery.
saw
God.
God in his entrails. Now, it's a good DM will like sort of facilitate an
Right.
explanation for that. A good
Mhm.
player will sort of play into the fact that he's going to want to play that. They are going to want to
Right.
play that,
Right.
and they're going to sort of be an amateur that before
Right.
taking it.
Some interest
To
in
sort
it.
of help continuity.
Right.
But sometimes I think you're looking through and you're like, man, I've got my it's level 8, and I'm not really, I was gonna take this feat. Now I'm not going to because I don't want to. So let's go with Prodigy, and kind of spring it on there without any sort of forethought.
Right.
And now suddenly, it's like the Matrix, where she's like,
Yep.
"I do know,"
Exactly.
you
Yep.
know.
I'm amazing in acrobatics for no reason.
And now I can fly a helicopter.
Mhm.
Um, I like it because it's not a combat feat, but that's about the only reason I like it. It is neat. It's a cool way to provide a little bit of extra, flavor for your
As like a
character.
level 1
Some other
feat, it's
stuff you could,
great. And
yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, cutting you off here.
It gives you, something that not every other fighter has, or not every other whatever has. And now you're also a brewer. So
Yeah.
it's neat. It's not the greatest. It's a little lazy because it's basically just like, hey, choose some other things,
Right.
you know.
That's my
But
biggest complaint.
that's you
Yeah.
can't have everything. There's other feats that do that other stuff,
Right.
so it's good to have something to give you some skills stuff.
Yeah, it is basically like, oh, there's this skill mechanic. We should just throw a feat that gives them that next extra piece of candy. If someone is
I,
needing and
that's like, the skilled feat or
right.
this
Yep.
is something that to me, it's like, yeah, of course you need that because
Right.
you're not going to have enough to fill up the whole list
Yeah.
otherwise, basically.
Yeah.
And so,
Exactly.
yeah, like that's how you get, but I get that too, though. It is, along those lines. It's not like
It's
groundbreaking.
honestly interesting that it was in Xander's guide and not the player's handbook because it seems
I,
so simple that it or so like just what another skill like and so it's
I think,
interesting that it in Xander's
I think Xanathar.
Xanathar. Nope, Xander's.
But that's the thing though, is that they were looking for another racial feat, I think, to fill out, and they were like, oh crap, we don't have another one here to even out the
Right.
list or whatever, I'm sure.
It
So
is
they slapped
interesting that
this
it makes you be
human-based
part
feat.
human for it, like half
Right.
elf,
Yeah.
half art,
But that
human.
is
That is sort of
sort
their
of that
thing.
idea,
Hey,
right?
no,
Yeah, that they're kind of
it
experts or
only
whatever.
says you have to be a half elf. It doesn't say what the other half has to be. I mean, come
It
on.
Can you be half
implies
elf? Can you be
if you're
half elf
being the
and then
half
half
elf.
orc too?
Yeah, fine.
And you
That's
can
not the
take
stat
orcish
block, I
fury, and you
guess,
can take
right?
elven accuracy too.
Right.
Hey, that's actually not bad. Not a bad. But I'm gonna rate this one just a straight 3. Like it's the mashed potatoes of feats. Like it's there because it's easy and it's good, but you're not gonna build a character around progeny. You're not gonna make a meal of just mashed potatoes. So
Progeny.
Progeny is children.
still, my statement stands.
I think every character was built around progeny. One
Yep.
point.
One point or another.
Oh my god.
And then they reached as adolescence. I'm gonna go out of order here and say I agree with you. We're gonna
Okay.
do 3 over
Cool.
here. Just same sort of thing. Like
Alright.
it's a good one to have. Good option to have. It's
Right.
it's not
Let's say
super
4.
imaginative.
4. All right.
Sorry, I'm gonna say 4. I didn't. Yeah, I'm jumping in ahead of you here, but I think
I
you're
didn't have
all
anything important to say.
underappreciating how much expertise on athletics makes
Right.
combat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or matters
Or
in combat.
acrobatics. Like you can basically say,
Oh,
"Can I make an acrobatics check for X in combat?" And
Mhm.
if your DM is like any other DM, he's gonna be like, "All right, yeah, you try to jump off that wall through the window. Yeah, see what you roll." Unless it's
I
absolutely
want you to DM with that
impossible.
voice.
Oh, okay. No, yeah.
Okay,
I'm just swear I'm gonna DM the
you asked for it.
Wastelanders as
Yeah,
Harold.
No.
Yep.
I've made a
Oh, it's
terrible
Harold?
mistake.
All
Yep.
right. I can live with that.
Oh, you can live
Anyway.
with that. Okay.
All right, so last we left are heroes.
Our
That
heroes.
I don't know if I could survive.
All right, the next one is another one of those. I think I'm gonna call them mashed potatoes feats. Resilient. Choose one ability score. You gain the following benefits: increase the chosen ability score by 1 to maximum 20, and you gain proficiency in saving throws using that chosen ability. So you just kind of get to click that box and just go, "Ooh, yeah, I can add my proficiency bonus to wisdom now too." I don't like it. It's even more boring than Prodigy because there are less choices with Resilient than Prodigy. I don't think sacrificing a point in the ASI is worth the adding your proficiency bonus to a single characterization. Character proficiency.
Saving throw.
Saving throw.
Thank you. Whatever. I don't think it's worth it. I really don't.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty powerful, especially at higher levels. Like dex saves are so important. Wisdom saves can be super important.
Every
But I
spell that
hate
doesn't
it.
target
I
your
hate it
AC.
because it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Okay.
It's just like a way for you to make your saves higher. Like It's I don't know. It seems, I used the word lazy with the last one. I'm going to use the word lazy with this
Right.
one. It's just, how do you manifest that? Like, suddenly you come out of the goblin cave and you've seen the horrors of beyond, and you're like, I'm dead inside now. So my wisdom saves are
Better at wisdom.
much higher.
That's such a lame argument. Everything you get in D&D happens like that.
Right.
Yeah, but it just seems it just sort of seems out of, there's really no use for it other than not getting fucking mind controlled or blasted by a
Right.
dragon's
Sure.
fire breath. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's really
it's
just-
combat. It's purely combat, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, yeah, like, yeah, I just hate it. I hate it so much.
it's boring.
It's so
Rod
boring.
has resilience.
Really? Ah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
so because he has 4 fucking saves. He's goddamn tough.
Yep.
That's his character. Like, that's
Mhm.
what he is.
That's why it's so hard to kill that little fucking goblin.
Yeah, because I built him to be goddamn tough. Like, that was his whole character. It's just he's a fucking survivor.
Piece of
And so, like,
fucking
that's the
goblin
element.
leather.
Is
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's to me, like, I think you can bring it to a place where it brings some story weight, potentially.
Right.
It is just as much an element of your character as, Great Weapon
It's true.
Master or any
Okay,
other
right.
feat. But
That's true.
I get it. It's not exciting. It's not
Right.
adding anything to your character that they don't already have. You're just checking another box. That is
Yeah.
kind of boring. That said,
Yeah.
it's super good. Like, you're talking about giving yourself the benefit of, like, advantage by level 6
Okay.
or something,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, that's like a
It's
plus
a big
5
plus,
your
yeah.
proficiency bonus or whatever it's going to be. That's big.
It starts getting big. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Especially from like just a raw D20, especially on
With
those
the bounded
saves, they're
accuracy
like 18 to
system,
20. Yeah.
yeah. Save over 20 is a
Yeah.
really hard save to make, making your
Mhm.
roll have to be that much lower to succeed. I think, to me, it's really strong, but yeah, it is boring. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
arguing that.
I'm gonna give it a 2 because I don't like it.
You all suck.
I'm giving it a 2 because it's stupid and boring.
Yeah.
I think it has great application for a character, especially if it's a character you're building that is meant to be tough.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I like feats for flavor, not for power.
Right.
Like Tavern Brawler
Mm-hmm.
is my
I
favorite.
can't
feat,
wait
and
to
it's
talk about
probably
Tavern
the worst.
Brawler. Oh
I know,
man,
right?
I can't
But-
wait.
So I mean, yeah, I would get a 0 if it was going for flavor and how great it is, but it gets 2
Right.
because it's powerful and
Yeah.
useful.
All right. I recant. It's powerful.
I submit that Tavern Brawler is no more interesting. I can use literally anything as a D4 weapon instead of a 1 point of damage weapon. Is no more gamey or less gamey than I
It makes
now
it makes it a
resistant to
viable
certain
option,
setting.
but we'll get to that. when we
Sure,
get to
you're
it.
right.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Getting ahead of myself.
So Shady, do you want to read this next one? It's a really good one.
Is this okay? Now, first, are we doing the Eberron ones or are we
No.
not?
Nope.
Just Player's
PhD,
Handbook
yeah,
and
that
Xanathars.
was good.
Ritual
Yep.
caster. Then.
Yeah.
You have you got to have an Enter Wisdom 13 or higher.
Mhm.
That's the prerequisite for it, not the perquisite, but the prerequisite. You have learned a number of spells that you can cast as rituals. These spells are written in a ritual book, which you must have in hand while casting one of them. When you choose this feat, you acquire the ritual book holding 2 first level spells of your choice. Choose one of the following classes: Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard, and you must choose your spells from that class's spell list. And the spells you choose must have the ritual tag. The class you choose also determines your spellcasting ability for these spells. Charisma for Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wisdom for Cleric or Druid, and Intelligence for Wizard. If you come across a spell in written form, such as a magical spell scroll or a wizard spellbook, you might be able to add it to your ritual book. The spell must be on the spell list for the class you chose, and the spell's level can be no higher than half your level rounded up, which is awesome.
It's such a
It
good
must have the
feat.
ritual tag. The process of copying the spell into your ritual book takes 2 hours per level of the spell and costs 50 GP per level. This cost represents material components you expend as you experiment with the spell to master it, as well as the fine inks you'll use to record it.
Dude, this feat
Such a good
is
spell, dude. Or spell feat.
ridiculous. Oh my god, it's basically Wizard in a can. You
Oh,
know?
it's like Wizard Baby. It's like Baby
Yeah,
Wizard.
baby wizard. Because, okay,
I
because
mean,
like, hear me out here.
now it has to be a ritual spell, and not very many good spells are ritual spells, but they are still spells. They're still cool fucking spells, and you don't have to use any spell slots. So you don't
Right.
have that thing because everything you cast has to be cast with ritual.
Yes.
The fact that you can copy stuff down up to half your level, up to the half your level,
But,
you can have ninth level ritual
dude,
spells
dude,
in there.
No. So this is, if you take this ritual caster with magic initiate, you actually get a first level spell slot, which means that you can use this spellbook thing to write spells in your book that have the ritual tag, but you can also cast those spells as a first level spell, because you do get a spell slot with magic initiate.
But it
And
says that you can expand. Oh, magic initiate.
right,
I
if you
guess.
have these
Yeah,
two feats,
okay.
you can expend a single spell slot, and it allows you to add spells to your thing just like a wizard. So you can have a fighter with a spell book that's just looking for ritual spells that he can cast with his magic initiate feat. It's hilarious.
You could argue that the
Knights of
ritual
Silver
book is a
Moon here.
separate book from your class's spell book, maybe, if you were trying to be cheesy, because I think that they may have. I'm not sure that they intended that to be the case. I'm assuming that they just want to give that mechanism to anyone who takes this feat.
Right.
But they're talking about a ritual book. Your other stuff is going to be talking about your spell book and
But that's
your
the
wizard
thing, is
spells.
if
or whatever, right?
you're a fighter that takes magic initiate, you don't even have to have any wizard spells. You choose one first level spell from the same list. I guess it doesn't. Magic initiate
That's
doesn't
what I'm saying.
necessarily
It picks.
say
That's what
that
I mean. Is
you
it doesn't
can.
really say that those are the same lists. It doesn't say
Right.
that they're not. So there's
Mhm.
maybe no cheese in doing that either. I don't know that it hurts anything, but I'm
Right.
not sure that that's like really what it was intended.
Regardless,
It's not going to hurt
though.
anything. Ritual caster is, if you have 10 minutes to cast a spell, then
Right.
let them do it. But
Knights of Silvermoon here mentioned, they've had somebody who had this, and every 10 feet they were having to stop and be like, hold on, I got to cast 3 different ritual spells. That would be a nightmare. So
Yep.
that's going to distract a little bit, I think, because I mean, I know that's not the intent, and I love the feat, but to invite that into you, that kind of like, that sort of character flaw into your game.
I was gonna
Right.
say the other thing that's really weird is that even if you pick bard or sorcerer, you have to
Mhm.
have a 13 intelligence or wisdom,
Right. Regardless of what your charisma
even though you're
is.
casting with charisma.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a weird.
That's
I would.
strange.
That,
As a
that doesn't
DM, I
seem
would
right.
allow
You know,
charisma 13
yeah,
or higher.
I probably would
you
as
know?
well. I guess the logic is probably that this isn't, a, this is an intelligence / wisdom process or
Right.
something like that there, but
still,
I don't know that I'd
why
care
would you
enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of the spellcasting classes are charisma based. Like there's just as many charisma based ones as there is all the other, the other two combined.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually plus, I think there's 4 charisma, isn't there?
Well, if you count half casters, I guess.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that paladin neither is ranger.
Yeah.
But I guess they're not
really
cast.
spells. Yeah.
If they're that's. I mean, but
Abilities.
slapping this onto a class like that, though, actually is
Right.
kind of an interesting perspective as well,
Yeah.
because most of them don't get the ability to ritual cast anything.
Mhm.
So,
Would you
that
allow
could be
this
a
with
nice
Artificer?
utility.
Because when this was created, obviously Artificer wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
I don't think I'd see a reason to not.
I think it'd be cool with Artificer because it'd sort of be like a schematic book, because those spells are meant to be flavored as like
Mhm.
little pop
Yeah.
cans or not pop, but like a little
could-
twist and pull
Yeah.
kind of situation.
That'd be fun. I'd be fine. I think I'd be fine with that. It doesn't seem like there's anything too crazy that could go in there. And if sorcerer can't that's the question for me though, is it's like, does sorcerer get to pull from that list when they're expending their spell slots
Right.
or whatever? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Does warlock, does
Can you
whatever?
use
Not that
these
you would want to
as
with warlock
spells?
probably, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
allow that. because
Really?
it's a
don't.
totally different. I mean,
You
if
keep
you
them
were to
as
look at it,
rituals.
say you're a wizard and you've got a ritual book, you've got your spell book that you cast by using the weave, right? Like
Right.
you're shooting out magic, and um, then you got your ritual book, which is a different thing. It's a different. It draws from a different power entirely. I feel like,
Right.
and I feel like as the DM, you would flavor that,
Yeah.
especially if it's like a warlock book or something.
Right.
Maybe some of those warlock spells are on the wizard spell list because it's got a huge spell list,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also using this like Necronomicon to do it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, first levels of the. Yeah, I don't.
I've totally decided that my character Darning Watch, whenever I make one, is going to have Ritual Caster.
Nice. Okay. That's a
Nice.
good idea.
I took some innate spell casting stuff as well because it's nice to have a bunch of tools.
Yep.
And that's the other thing is just adding utility with these. That's
Yeah.
the coolest part about this. If you have the option to take 10 minutes and cast identify or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and no one else in your party can do that, you are, supremely useful all of a sudden, and that's very fun.
I just
But
love the idea of making just a straight up fighter that has magic initiate and ritual caster, because you're a
yeah,
baby wizard at that point that can also decapitate goblins. It's like a hex blade, but without the downside
right,
of like sacrificing some of your fighter stuff to cast spells. And like because you can pick any of these, you can like cleric, you can pick a healing spell, like one of those first level, like a healing word or whatever first level cleric healing spell is, and have a fighter that has a little bit of their own self healing, which is really neat.
ritual
Healing word
though.
isn't ritual.
Well, no, I was talking about magic initiate and ritual caster, because
Oh,
you get your
okay.
first level spell you can cast, and you get 2 cantrips, and then you can just then you have ritual caster too, so you can learn larger spells as long as they have the ritual tag on them. Because that's what I really like about it. I like ritual caster because it allows you to gain more spells. It gives you because you could, if you run a campaign for long enough, you have a DM that's playing ball, you could just be like, I am now the Pokemon or the like Pokemon master of ritual spells. The goal of my character is to fill up this ritual
Right.
book with as many crazy ass spells as possible, even though I'm not a wizard. But I like that flavor. I really like that flavor. It's
I like
Well, it's
the
like you are a
opportunity.
wizard, It's
right.
just
You just
that's
not
you're
a
just
not
that's
the
not what it says on your character
right.
sheet, so that's why I like this feat.
Yeah.
I like
It
the
allows you
opportunity
to.
of creating homebrewing, ritual versions of non-ritual spells too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that gives you some place to play with that. I know it makes it a little bit more powerful, but
Right.
it's not so much about the power. When you've got tunnel fighting polearm master sentinels
Right.
running around.
You need 10 minutes to cast anything. It's not going to make you
That's the thing
overpowered.
is
Right.
it's
You
not going to
can't
be
do
a
it in combat.
super combat
Right.
centric thing, and if they're willing to like commit to setting up a battlefield like that, and they can actually effectively draw an enemy into it, then they should benefit from that kind of stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah, if they're gonna drop 3 or 4 rituals onto a certain place and then lure them there, then
Yeah. That'd be
all
cool.
right,
Yeah.
drop them dead. Like,
Yep. All right. Well, I am gonna give this bad boy, man, a 4.5 out of 5. I love him. He's really cool. He works well with like Magic Initiate, and it just there's a lot of neat character stuff that you could do with this one. I know I said this in Magic Initiate, but I want to bring it up too. The idea of a DM starting a campaign without letting the other players know what the other players' classes are, because that doesn't come up in roleplay, and so then you can have like Ritual Caster and Magic Initiate to really like be like, wow, your character has got so many like layers to it, um, and it's just better than just the base class. So yeah, I'm gonna give 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
I'm
That's
down.
I'm in the same field here, 4.5. I like the sort of build an adventure workshop thing we got going on with these kinds of things.
Right.
So I like that you can be a barbarian who knows some maybe some
Oh, that's
ancient
cool.
rites and stuff, and
Yeah,
or
that's
There's a
neat.
subclass for that.
like a rogue that got his hands on like a witchcraft book,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It's really neat. It adds a ton of flavor to your character and
Yeah.
quite a bit of usefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it layers well with a lot of the other. Yeah, you can slap it onto a half caster, things like that. I think I would. I'm probably gonna say it's like 3.5.
Okay.
Because it doesn't give you a wide breadth necessarily initially, and then you are dependent upon your DM
Mm-hmm.
to meet you halfway with like presenting that stuff for you to be able to add to your book and for this to continue to be useful down the road. Um, but I love the potential for like customizing a character that's individual and different from everyone else because they have what's in their book and that's what makes them that's what they can do kind of thing. So
Right.
it's cool.
It's really neat.
But we're flying by the seat of our pants here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's 11:15, so we're gonna take a
Oh
quick
shit.
Yep.
14 and 45 second 14 minute and 45-second break.
Exactly that.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, we do every Monday stream. Right now it's Monster of the Week. We're actually not streaming next Monday. We're going to be running a rerun of last week's Monster of the Week because we're going to do session 0 for the upcoming game we're doing
Mm-hmm.
in Dungeon World.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kyron, do you want to give us since we kind of have an idea of what we're doing, do you
Yeah.
want to give us a little bit of a
So using the Dungeon
rundown?
World system, we are going to be exploring the Meshan Desert of Paralandia. It is a ancient desert that once held a mighty orcish civilization that is now buried under the sand. You guys are going to be adventurers, Indiana Jones style, or Tomb Raider, however you want to, whatever your flavor is. But you guys are going to be delving into these lost, forgotten cities and structures, finding the shiny bits inside and trying to drag them out with your life. I'm very excited because the Dungeon World system is incredibly deadly. It's got some really fun like mechanics around death, and like you are going to be training your replacements while you're marching through the desert, and I'm so excited for one of you to die and then have to pick up the guy that you hired 2 towns back because you're running out of characters, and
The worst thing about it
so
is
much
that it's gonna be a
awesome.
character that Kyron's doing the voice for,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to like try and emulate that voice.
Mhm.
That's not okay.
It's
No.
gonna be so much fun. Oh,
I'm
it's
not
gonna be so
capable.
much fun.
All right,
So
let's find a
yep.
system we can't die in, guys.
It's gonna be
Let's
great.
turn this
I
around.
can't wait for you guys to be
yeah.
like, do we want to hire this guy? Because there's a chance that we're gonna have to be him. Like,
I can't do that
It's great.
voice.
Yeah,
Sorry,
like,
he's
no.
out.
He's out. You got a bad voice, man. I can't handle being you. So
Kyron does terrible voices.
and
He
awkward
does
voices. Yes, it's
some of them
great.
like have been explained to sound like a squeaky gate hinge.
Yep. Yep. There's an
and
episode of
they're not
Dragons
good.
Paralandia that we have to put a warning on for people that aren't hearing impaired,
God.
because they will be. They listen to that voice for very long.
Yeah. Also, so yeah, that's going to be happening on Mondays. That's going to start not this coming Monday, but the following. And this next Monday, we will not be streaming live.
Yep.
Every other Tuesday, we do. Cortex runs us through Waterdeep Heist. I'm in that game, and I love my character. He's an artificer. He's the best. And then every Thursday we do this. Next Thursday we're going to be interviewing Escape This Podcast. And they're sort of a they do some like puzzles, like D&D puzzle stuff and like escape room stuff. So it'll be a conversation I think about how to handle D&D puzzles, which I think is something I need to learn how to do better. And I think we're all in that boat.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll be talking with them next Thursday at the same time as we go live tonight. And then every other Friday is Dragons of Paralandia, which is a podcast that we put out. It's out on everywhere that you get podcasts. If you get your podcasts from the bottom of the fridge, it will be there.
Bottom of your fridge. Check it out.
Every other Friday. It will be this coming Friday.
Yep.
So not tomorrow, but I'm sorry. Yeah,
In a
this
week.
coming Friday is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow is when that one will come out.
However you want to pronounce that, but it works.
What?
Yep. No, continue. You're doing great.
I
What did I
pronounce it
say? What
8
did I?
days from today.
All
I
right,
hate
so
it.
everybody, we
Anyway,
will
yeah.
be back.
If you wanna come hang out with us, we have a Discord
Oh yeah,
channel.
Discord.
And then if Nightbot doesn't shut up about it, and if you like us enough to throw money at us, you can subscribe to us on here, or you can go to our Patreon, which is linked below. There's all sorts of different tiers and rewards, and we do a monthly giveaway and all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of cool stuff for those people. So come hang out with us there at the Discord and give us money at Patreon. Woo!
All right, everybody, we will be back in about 15 minutes. Don't listen to Brett; he's a liar.
14 minutes and 45 seconds.
Goodbye. And we're back. It's the Irrational Radio crew doing feats.
Oh my god! What the
Right?
fuck?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
hate you.
Bwah, bwah,
But,
bwah.
okay. Please stop.
Thursday. We just did Ritual Caster. It's pretty good, really neat, lots of flavor. Makes your fighter a wizard for a little bit in a little bit of ways. Next, in alphabetical order, is Savage Attacker. Once per turn, when you roll damage for melee attack, you can re-roll the weapon's damage dice and use either roll. It is interesting. This is basically advantage on a damage. So yeah, there's also, this is one of those that you might end up with discussions at the table in order to like how to exactly implement this, because there are some things that can modify damage dice, like for instance Shillelagh, or for instance like the Savage Attacker also trigger when you make the secondary attack with Polearm Master. Do you get to roll 2d4 and then decide which one? Does
Well,
Savage
you would
Attacker
be stupid
also?
to use that on that, I think, unless you
I think
rolled
you
really well on
could,
the first one. But
but
you get it
yeah.
once per
Right.
turn. It's very much like
Oh yeah, I
it's
missed
very
that
much
once per
like
turn thing.
using
Yep.
the rogue's backstab ability or whatever the
Right.
frick
Sneak
it's
attack.
called. Right. It's if you use it on one attack, then you don't get to use it even on like
Right.
your opportunity attack between.
Yep.
So that's sort of what you're
Right.
dealing with. But I think it's good. It wouldn't be good for a monk. It'd be good for
Right.
somebody who does like one big attack,
Yeah.
like a paladin or
Yeah.
a maul wielding barbarian or
Barbarian.
D12. If you swing a D12, this
Yeah.
is a really good feat for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that it is another time thing. It's another thing that adds a little bit more time to your turn. Because
So
every turn you're weighing out like, is this a good roll? Is it not a good roll? What's my average on these?
is it though? Okay, so I do have a question here on you brought up the D12 thing. It says you can roll the weapon's damage dice, so you can re-roll all of the dice, not just a singular dice. So wouldn't it be better to use like a maul in this situation that does 2d6 rather than a d12, because you have a better chance of rolling higher numbers? Like, isn't the average a little bit higher?
The average is a little higher, but
Yeah.
you're going to end up closer to that average more often. The either end is rarer with the 2d6, so to end up at your max, and the odds are you're going to be re-rolling like a 3 and a 1 or something rather than just a 1. So like the potential upside is higher with one big dice here. But I mean, if you have great weapon mastery and this, and you're rolling 2d6, you can make sure that you're over half damage every single time, pretty much. So it wouldn't hurt there either. You get more dice or whatever. But I personally, I think, because if you roll a 1 on a d12, that sucks real bad. But ending up with a 1 on one of your d6s isn't necessarily the end of the world, even if it's after a reroll or something.
Right.
It is another thing to mention that this would not work with smites or sneak attacks because those are not weapon damage dice.
I submit, yeah, they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't double with
sneak attack damage. Yeah, but
Read
Right.
sneak attack. It says your weapon. You do an
maybe
additional
sneak attack,
whatever as weapon damage.
but
Technically,
definitely
smite is the
not
same
smite.
way.
No
It's the
way.
same
Really?
wording.
It's a different damage
Mm-hmm.
type even.
Look at it.
All right, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm looking up sneak attack and smite
Okay.
now. Yeah.
I am.
Uh.
That is. I don't play it that way because it's ridiculous. But raw, it says
Okay.
your weapon deals or your weapon attack
No,
deals an additional
it
damage equal
says
to
once
X
per
plus for
turn you
whatever.
can deal an extra 1d6 damage to one creature you hit with an attack if you advantage on the attack roll. It
Right.
doesn't necessarily say that your weapon deals an extra d6. It says you can deal an extra d6 to one creature
With
you
a
hit with
a
an
melee
attack.
weapon attack?
If you the attack must use a finesse or a ranged weapon. So
For
it's
sneak attack,
yeah, for sneak attack. So it doesn't
And that's one of those
say
things that you look up in
yeah.
a forum
See, this
somewhere
is
and
why
get it.
this is
The
exactly
raw
the reason
is,
why
or
I said that this
the
is a dumb
generally
thing, yeah.
accepted. I'm pretty sure the sage advice on that also is that both of those technically are just weapon
Interesting.
damage. That might be what I was thinking of. I thought the language itself was more definitive, but
Interesting.
to me, that's still in addition to the weapons damage. The way smite's worded, you could
Right.
say that that's not the case for smite. Definitely there. By saying that that's
Interesting.
in addition to the weapons
Yeah.
damage. But
Yeah, you could rule it either way, and I
I
think
don't
you'd
know.
have at
Yeah.
least an argument. You'd have a leg to stand on. It's not insane to rule it either way.
All these rerolls. That's
Right.
so yeah, that's I'm wondering that if that's really what they intended with Savage Attacker though. Whether or not that's how they intended smite and stuff to work. Here
Right.
it seems like that'd be a much more powerful feat for that subset of like rogues or paladins than anyone
Super
else.
good for rogues. I mean, I guess paladins too.
If you
But-
yeah, depending on your ruling on that, obviously, I think is the way that comes down. But
Yeah.
but I swear, I think the sage advice says that stuff.
Interesting.
I feel like I've looked that up.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that this would be one of those feats that if you're like, oh, I'm going to take this to double my smite damage, and your DM doesn't quite see it that way, you may have discussions at the table where you're like, oh, if I knew that you weren't going to let me double my smite, I wouldn't have taken that feat,
Which is why I think it's probably really good to, sit and have a conversation with your DM about,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
If I take this, are you going to let me use it this way? So you don't run into a situation where you expect it to go one way and it doesn't.
Yep. That's really important. I mean, like the whole communication with your DM when you take some of these feats are going to really make and break whether it's even worth it to take them, because some are just going to get ignored or forgotten by the DM, and you just might as well take the SI because it's you're not going to.
Post from Perkins. He said, "All dice roll twice" is his response to the does smite double. But the response to that was all bonus, leave aloneness, and that made me giggle.
It's funny
because you don't double those. But no, yeah. So that's it seems that it's their official stance on it anyway. I don't do that at my table.
Interesting.
Sneak attack, I don't do it either. It's probably an unfair thing that I do to my players, but especially when you stack it up against a fireball that like a wizard can throw around or something. But it just exactly. When you can, it's like, well, this one swing now does like 150 damage. It's like, well, okay, that enemy's dead now.
In there's a I can't give that away. It hasn't come out yet. But yeah, that one swing kill is pretty awesome.
Kind of, now that we're not talking about feats anymore,
right? Obviously,
it does sort of detract away from the whole sort of, using it like how somebody might smite somebody. It's like, I'm going to save this until I crit, and so it becomes kind of a silly gimmick where you're just, well, I don't want to smite this guy because A, he's not undead, and B, I haven't crit on him yet.
Right.
So I get it. I feel like I understand why you don't do it.
Yeah.
And and I think it's, with rogues, the sneak attack, it makes when you do it that way, there's it does that same thing kind of stylistically. It makes it a more meaningful impact or whatever. It's not just a normal like, oh yeah, you stab him in a vital spot, but not vital enough to kill
Right.
him or whatever. Like, yeah. So there's something to be said about that. Because D&D combat ends up being this meat point slogfest sometimes when you get into higher level combat. So maybe that makes more sense than I give it credit for, but yeah. Anyway, we should probably actually like rate.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this. Man, I'm gonna give it just another 3. It doesn't really add much to your character instead, like flavor. You're just a better damage dealer. It is reasonably powerful, and it's does do stuff with other abilities and like things that many classes have. So it's not really class specific. It has no prerequisites, whatever, however you pronounce
good job.
one of those words. And so, but it's not something that you'd build a character around. So I'm gonna give it a 3. What about you?
I'm giving it a 2.
2,
because
okay.
I don't like it. I think
Alright.
it's good. It's a good little flavor thing for like not flavor thing. It's like a good mechanic thing to sort of make your character more damagey dealy. But it's boring and stupid and doesn't really provide anything for your character's backstory
Yeah.
or development. So
Yeah.
that's what it gets from me.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it is more mechanically valuable than some of the other ones that I'm not super impressed with, but I
Right.
would go with a 2 as well because
Alright.
it's pretty stylistically boring. It doesn't add a
Yeah.
lot to your character, and yeah, I'll look for that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
feats. Give me a whatever you can gather
Right.
food for you and 5 other party
Right.
members or something without a skill
Yeah.
check or something on top of this, and then I'll feel like it's
Oh,
worth taking.
that would be really weird to add to Savage Attacker, but you're such a Savage Attacker, and you also gather
Well,
berries.
that's what I mean is make it more than just like
Right.
you do
Oh,
more
yeah,
damage
just
feat
the
or something,
the feat,
like
it's
yeah.
just
Yeah, it doesn't
no, it doesn't. Yeah, but it's just a funny
doesn't
thing to think about.
it's boring, right? Yeah,
It is
you're
boring.
so good at taking people apart that you
Picking berries very angrily.
get more
Alright.
food from animals when you butcher them or something.
Next, we've
right?
got
I don't know.
another halfling feat, and this one's probably the worst one in the halfling only feats in
Which is
my opinion. Yeah. Do you want to read this one, Shady?
Sure. So its perquisites are that it's a halfling. Fortune favors you when someone tries to strike you. You gain the following benefits. Increase your dexterity, constitution, or charisma by 1 to a maximum of 20. I think it's funny that charisma's in there. When a creature you can see hits you with an attack roll, you can use a reaction to force that creature to re-roll. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you roll initiative at the start of combat or until you
Yep.
finish a short or long rest. But it's so bad.
Weird.
It's really
It
just not
is.
good.
No, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
I mean, you just
Compared to
one time
Lucky,
get a force.
like
One time you get a force disadvantage. That's it. And it's not
Yep.
even disadvantage. They're re-rolling. They're not taking the lowest. They're just taking the new roll.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad compared to Lucky. Like, you can do the same thing with Lucky more because you can force your opponents to re-roll d20s, and you get 3 of them with Lucky.
You can't
Yeah, well, you can
make them re-roll, right?
You can also spend 1 luck point when an
Lucky
attack
is an
roll is
attack
made
made
against you.
against you,
Roll a
you're right.
d20 and choose whether the attacker uses the attacker's roll or yours. More than one creature spends a luck point, yada yada yada. But it's better. That sentence alone makes that feat better
Yeah.
than this one, because you not only do you get to choose, you get to roll a d20, you get to make them choose which one they take. This one you have to pick the new one. So they re-roll and get the better one, then you're just out of luck anyway. So I don't
feel like a dummy if you roll that and then they hit a crit all of a sudden.
It's just,
and it's only one time.
Yeah, it's just
I think
one
that's
time.
the dumbest part about. But you can, I don't know. Yeah, you can absolutely get one of these before combat starts potentially, but
Right.
that's still, I guess, 2, and that's
Yeah.
not great.
Not
You
great.
still got to
No.
spend your reaction on it. I think in comparison to the other halfling feats, it's really disappointing. But
Yeah.
like, if they gave halflings another feat that was even decent, it would just be like, well, what
Right.
the hell, So,
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's not. Yeah, this one I'm giving this one 0. It gets 0 corn cobs because it just and it's sad because it's a Xanathar's guide. Like there was a
right.
bunch of new feats in Xanathar's guide, and it was like, yay, there's some new stuff.
yeah.
And this is just like we ran out of ideas. We need one for the halfling. Let's make
Right.
really shitty lucky.
Yeah.
And that's what
So
we got.
this is a part of the Bill Murray halfling build. It's not a good build, but it's a funny build. It is, you take second chance, lucky, and bountiful luck, and then you roll up a divination wizard, and you basically
It's an absolutely
just
great combo.
you just
I mean,
bumble yourself through everything, because at least second chance gives you an ability to reroll more dice.
It's another
Just-
reroll.
yeah, it's just another,
stacks
like,
onto the pile.
Nope, I didn't
Yeah.
like that either. So I'm just gonna keep on rolling and just. So it is.
I think my next character
yeah.
is going to straight up be one of those.
Yeah,
I think they'd be fun as
you
hell.
just bumble your way through success, and you play them. You play them as they're just like, they don't know how they keep winding up in these places and surviving, and you're just like, wow, I didn't train for this at all, and you just like wiggle your sword and you're just getting hits.
What you do is you convince your DM to let you take an extra 3 luck dice if you take 8s in all your stats.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my god. Oh no. Hi,
So you
I'm
get uninvited from my
Ted.
table.
Yeah.
Like, no, leave.
No. No.
So not only now do I have
Glad
more
we've got
of those
this out of the
annoying
way.
luck rolls,
Yeah.
but now I'm also basically incompetent. So
That's funny though, actually. That's like a
Wow.
really great character.
Yeah,
concept.
that's really funny.
No,
Yeah.
I'll take worse than commoner stats. It's fine. Just give me some luck and we'll do this thing. Like,
I'm gonna roll so many d20s. So it gives a little love for that, because I've ever since I learned about that build, I was just like, huh. So I'm gonna give it at least 1 corn cob, just because, it gets some love, but just a corn cob because it's really bad.
It's a bad feat.
So bad.
I'll give it 1, I
Yeah.
guess, because it's not obscenely broken, and they didn't give halflings yet another one of those.
Mhm.
But that's about
But,
its only redeeming quality.
yeah.
And I guess they give you 3 stats to pick from for the increase. That's nice.
Right.
too.
Yeah, but still.
No.
All right.
Gets it 1 whole cop.
So next is the Sentinel feat. Good feat. Another one of those legendary ones. You have master techniques to take advantage of every drop in an enemy's guard, gaining the following benefits. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, that creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn. Creatures provoke opportunity attacks from you even if they take the disengage action before leaving your reach. When a creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a target other than you, and that target doesn't have this feat, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against the attacking creature. Pretty cool. Yeah. It's
another one of those that's pretty good
by
on
itself.
its own.
Yeah.
But then, is sickening when combined with everything else.
I
Builds the exodia of D&D characters.
I hate it because it doesn't make sense.
no.
No, like if you drop their speed to 0, they can't ever leave your reach, so they never provoke. But
Right.
they have to do that
Should
to
you
provoke, but they
drop your
don't,
speed.
and
Yep.
then it's just stupid.
I mean, it's just the
But
way to
because if they
explain
move, then you
what they're
can't
doing.
actually target them.
Right.
Right, but that's what I mean, though, is they don't ever actually do the thing
Right,
that you're.
but it's
You,
not
if you
Magic
stop them
Gathering,
at
like-
0.
There's
I'm
no
just
trying to
saying.
do
do
that, and then
yeah.
you hit them with an attack, and then they stop.
Well, then they should be
Go.
5 feet away from you after they take a hit and have their speed reduced to 0.
So you just
But
there
that's
must
not
be
how it
movement
works.
at least. Yes, but
And it's dumb.
I really like that they had to throw and the target doesn't have this feat, so you can't just end up with 3 people whacking each other in a circle until they all fall over.
Dunk, 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 dunk. Well, you only get one reaction. That's the
Oh,
other
that's
thing.
true.
though,
Unless
See,
you're Tunnel Fighter, right?
everybody
Or
else-
Everyone has Tunnel Fighter, and so they all
See,
just
but that's not an opportunity
whack.
attack.
Oh, that's true.
That's a
Yeah.
different kind of thing. That's just a
Mm,
feature of
yep.
Sentinel. So
But
you would
still,
still
it's
have to
so
spend your
it-
reaction to
So
do that.
the target
but
can't
it
whack
keeps
you
it
back.
keeps all the
Yeah.
Sentinels from wasting all their reactions whapping each other.
Whapping each other for whapping their friends. Yep. But yeah, no. So yeah, I think you're right. In the like Exodia of like Bruce Lee martial artist fighters, disregarding that, it's reasonably powerful by itself. You have some interesting mechanical things you can do. I really do like when you hit a creature with opportunity attack, creature speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn. I do have a question though. Does that mean with like a reach weapon, if they don't have reach themselves, you can stop them with only with Polar Master? You can stop them from making an attack against you if they're running at
Yeah,
you.
that's where
That's why
part
it's
of
so
that,
dangerous.
Right.
That's where part of that Exodia.
Right, comes into play. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I do think that it's kind of ripe for those people that just want to break 5e and just take that to do that combat wise. What else can you say about it? It's pretty neat, pretty straightforward. I do like your argument there, Eric. It's kind of a funny mind game.
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
I've had, whatever. The way shield is worded does the same thing. You have to get hit before you determine that you aren't hit by resist. It's just dumb logic traps. It's not really an issue. It's just like, well,
dumb logic traps. Yeah, I like
Come
that.
on.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is probably all the time we have. Time
We didn't
flies.
give it a ranking.
When you're
Sentinel,
taking feats.
Sentinel
Oh yeah.
gets a 3 from me.
Okay. All right.
Because it's all right. It's pretty good. It's a neat little like extra option. See, that's the thing. 5e doesn't have a lot of options in combat for martial characters unless you take very specific archetypes.
Battle Master.
So things like this that kind of give you some flavor and options in combat make me a happy boy.
All right. What about you?
I'm gonna give it 2. It's boring to me.
Okay.
Comparatively speaking, it is purely combat, and it doesn't have a ton with it, and it's only taken generally by people who are building into the super 2-hand fighter thing.
Right. So and I'm gonna probably give it a 2.5 for kind of. Well, no, I'm gonna give it a 3. I like it a little bit better than some of the others. It's reasonable, but again, you're not going to necessarily build a character around this feat specifically. It's not something that you're going to, I mean, maybe, but
Pharaohs.
Yeah, Pharaohs. Yeah, right. But no, I think it's reasonable, not necessarily game breaking by itself. Gives you some options to combat. Gonna give it a 3. So
it's in
you ought
more
to give
tables
Veros
than
a
it's
sword
not,
with reach, by the way.
Huh?
You ought to give Veros a sword with reach.
I don't have to do anything.
You should.
Because resistance against all this saving throws and
I've got a
made him a
magic
gnome
staff.
Right?
It must be nice.
enjoy your sword of striking or whatever.
Sword of sharpness.
Sword of sharpness.
That's what it is.
Oh.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. This has been your weekly Irrational Radio Table 13 content. Next week again, we're going to be interviewing Escape This Podcast, which is we're going to be dealing with D&D traps and escape rooms and things like that. Maybe some interesting ways to include them in your game. Again, join our Discord. Come hang out with us. Right now, we're going ham on some 7 Days to Die, some modded 7 Days to Die. One of our members has a server up, and we're going crazy on that. And there's games and stuff, and people to hang out with, and people to talk to, and all that fun jazz.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next time.
Goodbye, kitty.